Yeah.
G'day guys, I'm D-Mac from NBA Fantasy Bible, and along with me, as always, is Kayla Fonte. Together, we are Between Two Hoops. Kayla, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing really well. It's been a massive week in the NBA as per normal. How's your week?
It was good. I slid down to third in one of my leagues, which is really disappointing because it's a really competitive league for me, but it's all right. Playoffs are coming up. I'm a playoff performer.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jimmy Butler style. So get focused for the playoffs. And I guess some people have entered playoffs now. Some are coming
Mhm.
up next week. But yeah, everyone's league's a little bit different, but we're here to cater for everyone. But shall we get into our review?
Let's do it.
Okay, guys. You know the story. We are slightly changing it up. Just because we understand that a lot of leagues have gone past the trade deadline in your fantasy leagues, so we probably won't go through, and we may discuss it briefly, but we won't go through our in-depth buy lows and sell highs. But we will go through our ads, holds, and drops, and go through our mailbag. But let's begin, starting with our ads. Now, Kayla, I think this is your team.
Mhm.
Pretty obvious one here. A lot of people actually dropped him after the last game, and it was sort of disappointing. But Kelly Olynyk is a must add for me.
Yeah, same here. And I could kind of understand why people rush to drop him, especially after he didn't get that start. But now you have Pirtle out, Scotty. It just makes sense to add him. Like he's going to get those minutes, even though they're tanking right now.
Absolutely. And we know that he's an across the board performer. So fantastic for category leagues, and he'll
Mhm.
still have fantastic value in points leagues.
Yep.
I expect that he will start. He'll start at center. Jakob Poeltl's probably out for at least the next 2 games, possibly longer. So I think Olynyk just has to be added right now. Next one is our boy Jordan Poole. Now, it's pretty rare that he's actually on the ads list, but he's been added just because he's been dropped, and a lot of people weren't having the faith and keeping the faith in Jordan Poole. High draft pick coming into this season, a lot of hype, a lot of disappointments, but he's actually turning it around, and it's at the business end of the season.
Yeah, it seems like that move to the bench is just what he needed. He's posting good value right now. I know I've had a lot of questions about people asking if I should add him. Right now, I would. I'm still a little bit skeptical just because we've seen how this whole season has gone so far. But while he's performing like this, I would add him.
Absolutely. We saw it at Warriors. He would come off the bench behind Steph and he'd get that massive usage spike. And we've seen it now coming off the bench. He's playing away from Tyus Jones. He's playing away from Denny Avdia, playing away from Kyle Kuzma. And it's just doing wonders for his fantasy value. So absolute add or hold if you've already got him for Jordan Poole. Next one is an injury replacement. This one may not last long term, but I feel like just with the tanking of the Trailblazers, I think Diop Reith is a fantastic ad.
Yeah, I think he's good, especially now. We don't really know when Aiden is going to return. They're not going to rush him back either because they don't really have anything to play for right now. But even down the stretch, too, he'll receive more minutes.
I think so. And in a similar boat, Jabari Walker, just Trailblazers, they're going to be tanking hard. So, like you said, DeAndre Ayton, he's questionable for the next game, but I don't know if they rush him back. And down the stretch, I think they'll be resting him. Jeremy Grant also missed the last game. So I think, and he's notorious as well, just the last 3 seasons. We saw it at the Blazers. We saw it before that at the Pistons as well. So he doesn't play a lot down the stretch for these tanking teams. So I think Jabari Walker is an ad. Yes, he had a disappointing game last night, but I still think he's a solid ad. Next
Yeah.
one is Gary Trent Jr., again for your boys, but with Scotty Barnes out, Jakob Poeltl as well. This doesn't really impact him as much for Jakob Poeltl, but Scotty Barnes particularly being out, Gary Trent's moved into the starting lineup and is getting that usage spike.
Yeah, and we've seen how this has gone throughout the whole season too. I was a little bit skeptical with Trent at first too, but now that he has that good opportunity to produce, I would add him. And I think he has a little bit more value in points leagues as well. Unless in category leagues you need those threes, he'll give you points. His steal numbers are a bit down, but he's shown his potential at getting them in some games.
Absolutely. Now his minutes are trending up. I think he has that ability to get those steals. And as you said, those threes and points are very valuable as well. Another injury replacement, Royce O'Neal. So he was tearing it up, but that was in the absence of Bradley Beal. Now we've just got word that Devin Booker is going to miss the next few games as well. I think Royce O'Neal retains some value. So if you've added him, you hold him. If he's available, I still think he's time for an ad.
Yeah, I think so too, especially if he's going to be in that starting role. And I believe that Booker is out for the next 7 to 10 days at the minimum. So you can stream him for a while too.
Yeah, a good point. At a minimum, I think they're pretty safe in making playoffs, the Suns. So I don't know if they're going to rush him back, and
Yeah.
obviously they've still got their stars to back him up. So I think Royce O'Neal's going to have some good value for at least the next 2 weeks. Vasily Micic. Now we've spoken about Trey Mann being a must roster. I still feel that he should be held for now, and that's particularly with Cody Martin has gone down, so he'll be missing some time. I think Vasily Micic is an add, and obviously he's quite specific. If you need those assists, he's going to be terrific. And um, apart from that, he may not be able to help your team. And for a category league, it may be determinant on your team construction, but I still think there's some value there.
I think so too, especially in deeper leagues. But he has that opportunity for the next 2 weeks to see more starts, hopefully get more value.
Absolutely. Cam Johnson, he was on our Droops list the last time we caught up, but I guess with Cam Thomas missing, Ben Simmons as well. So again, not directly like for like, but particularly Cam Thomas. Cam Johnson's had a bit of a usage spike. He's had more minutes as well, and he's looking a lot better.
Yeah, he definitely is. And in that first game when they were both out, he had, I think, a bad performance, if I remember correctly. But now he's just starting to turn it around, and I would hold on to him while he still has that role.
He's got the role, and plus this week, obviously, Brooklyn Nets have that 5-game week, so we've got a lot of guys in the watch list and the streaming list coming up, but a lot of guys from his team are also appearing on that list. Not as much of a hold or an add as Cam Johnson, but we'll go through that shortly. Now, quickly looking at the holds, Paul Reed is still a hold. He has come off the bench. He's actually looked really good. Mo Bamba is not an add for me, but I think Paul Reed, particularly in category leagues, is a hold.
Yeah, I would say even in points leagues too, I would hold on to him. Even when he's playing about 20-ish minutes, 25-ish, he'll still give you good value. Yeah, you're going to get that dud every once in a while. But for the long-term value that he holds, I just think it's worth it.
Yep, agreed. Asad Thompson, he's one of your boys. He's looked really good, even with some guys coming back like Isaiah Stewart.
Yeah, I think he still has great potential for the rest of the season, especially we don't really know what's going to happen with Cade, certain other players too. But I would hold on to him.
Yep. The next two Bulls, and obviously they retaining their value just with the absences of Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams. So Ayo Dosunmu, he's looking really good. And Alex Caruso, he shot horribly last night, but he's providing the value with his steals, and just his general defense is worthy of a roster spot.
Mm-hmm. They just both have good long-term value right now.
Yep. Marvin Bagley, he was injured last night, but I still think he's a hold. I think he's got that role sewn up. Yes, he was injured, so perhaps some people are looking to offload him. Those that are desperate to either make the playoffs in their fantasy leagues or potentially avoid getting more zeros. But I think he is a pickup or a hold if you still have him.
Yeah, I would agree so too, especially in points leagues. I think he has a little bit more value there just because he can only give you points, rebounds, some blocks here and there too. So a little bit less value in cat leads, unless that's what you really need.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, these are holds, but also I guess we have to be mindful that in a few weeks' time, some of their superstars are coming back to the Knicks. But for now, solid holds in Donte DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and Isaiah Hartenstein. Yes, he's been disappointing since coming back from injury, but it is ramping up, and his numbers are looking a lot more improved.
Yeah, he's been pretty solid in my points league so far. So yeah, definitely hold on to him. And yeah, with Hart DiVincenzo, as long as they have that opportunity, those increased minutes, it just makes sense to hold on to them.
Yeah, we knew that Donte DiVincenzo was looking awesome. He was looking like Steph Curry light, but Josh Hart triple-double in the last game, so he's looking really impressive. And we'll see what happens with Jalen Brunson. He's listed as questionable for tomorrow's game. We'll wait and see. I'm thinking that he may miss a game. Some people are actually thinking that it could have been longer term, and it did look bad. It looked like a non-contact injury, but then there was a little bit of a collision with Isaiah Hartenstein as well. So it was hard to pick. Some people thought it could have been potentially season ending. So to be questionable was really positive for Jalen Brunson. But if he does miss, I think that just further boosts Donte DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and we'll talk about it later on, but potentially Miles McBride if there's a couple of games missed for Jalen Brunson. But we'll talk about that shortly. Trey Mann, I said that he was a hold. I still think he's got that solidified role as point guard. They're not rushing LaMelo Ball back. There was an injury update as such from the Hornets overnight, but saying that LaMelo's ramping up, but we've been hearing that for quite some time, and I just don't think they have any need to rush back their franchise cornerstone.
Yeah, I exactly agree with you there. And especially with Cody Martin out for the next 2 weeks, it's only better news for him. And yeah, he has that long-term role.
Yep. Nick Richards, he missed the last game and Grant Williams came in. I've got them both listed there. So I still think Nick Richards, if he's playing, he's a hold. If you can put him into IR, if he does miss another game, and I don't think he will, but if he does, I think he's still worthy of a roster spot. Grant Williams, he did look good as a small ball 5 in Nick Richards' absence, but I still think he's still worthy of a hold, even if Nick Richards does return.
Yeah, so for Richards, we all know that Mark Williams is out. Wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't come back this season. So just like Trey Mann, it's good for his long-term value. And with Williams too, I think he's a good pickup right now, even if Richards does return. He's been playing a lot better with the Hornets than he was with the Mavs, and he's just giving us that value right now. He's been a little bit inconsistent, but I still think he's a good hold or streamer.
I think so too. And I think anyone that's outside of the top 50 or 60 are going to have those inconsistencies. They're going to have their ups and downs. And we've seen it with Paul Reed. We've seen it with Grant Williams. But I think he's still worthy of a hold. Speaking of Trey, another Trey is Trey Jones. So again, he's been up and down, more inconsistency there. But for what he provides in terms of his assists, low turnovers, decent efficiency from the field and from the line, I think Trey Jones is still a hold for me.
Yeah, definitely. Even in points leagues too, he's giving us good value. Yeah, the inconsistency is there a little bit, but yeah, he's a hold for me.
Yeah. Next one, Dicey. Like I talked him up when he was first traded to the 76ers, and that was because they had quite a lot of absences. Since then, a lot of guys have returned. However, DeAnthony Melton's come back out. He'll be missing some more time, and I think that solidifies Buddy Hield's role.
Yeah, as long as Melton is out, Hield is a definite hold for me.
Yeah, another injury replacement here. Sadiq Bey. So he's been actually pretty impressive. Even before Trae Young went down, he was pretty good. And I know DeAndre Hunter has been in and out of the lineup. Hunter's now returned, but Trae Young is out. But Sadiq Bey, I think, has to be held.
I think so too. He's had a couple of duds over the past few weeks. And we've kind of seen this before where he has those really hot stretches and then goes cold for a little bit. But with a high usage player like Young out, it just makes sense to hold someone like Bey.
I think so. Now, watch, list, and stream. Trey Murphy's looked really good in the last few games. Doesn't have the best schedule coming up. I think there's a game tomorrow and then a couple of days off. So in terms of the streaming ability, it's not quite there. But Trey Murphy is looking like the Trey Murphy of last season.
Yeah, he's been really good lately. And it's funny because we did have him on our drops list for a few weeks, but he's starting to turn that around now. So stream him in that case.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Yes, he was on our drops list, but we're flexible, we're agile, so we got to move with the times and the form as well. Understand the injuries as well. He's been performing though with Zion, with Ingram, so it's been really promising to see him bounce back. Next one is another injury replacement. Dennis Schroeder. Ben Simmons is out. Schroeder looked pretty bad when he first got there, and he's not a superstar by all means, and that's why he's on our watch list or a stream list. More a stream for this week just because the Nets have 4 more games in the next 6 days, which is pretty elite. So I think just for that value alone, I think he's worthy of a roster spot.
Yeah, I think he's one of the best streams right now. But just note that with Simmons and Cam Thomas on the court, his value does dip a little bit. But then again, it does really depend with how Simmons is going to be. I don't see him getting any monster minutes anytime soon.
Yeah, and there's some doubts about Ben Simmons actually returning this season. Another reason or another team that doesn't have to rush him back. Cam Thomas, I think he'll return probably in the next week or so. But in the meantime, I think Dennis Schroeder should be rostered or at least thought about as a solid stream. Dorian Finney-Smith is the same situation. He's solid without being spectacular. But again, with the 4 games in the next 6 days this week to end out week 19, I think he's very solid as that streaming option.
Yeah, I think so too. He's one of the better Nets to stream right now. Especially, I don't think he's rostered that high either, so he can even be found probably in deep leagues too.
Absolutely. And even 12 teamers, I think easy to find him.
Mhm.
Duncan Robinson, again, injury stream. This is Tyler Hero. So Tyler Hero's gone out again. Duncan Robinson is the obvious one. Jaime Hackers to a lesser extent, and Caleb Martin. So those three guys are considerations for streaming options.
Yeah, in points leagues for me, it's Robinson and Martin are the top ones. Jaime Hackers is pretty solid too, but I just rank him slightly lower with those three.
Yep. Yeah, so Duncan Robinson for me is number one there.
Mhm.
Karis LeVert. So I've got three guys, obviously with Donovan Mitchell going to miss probably at least the next 3 games, probably 4. Cleveland have a fantastic schedule. So they've got 5 games in the next 7 days, which is, again, elite. Karis LeVert's questionable for the next game. If it turns out that he does play, I think he's probably the pick of the bunch. Sam Merrill looked really good in the last game. Obviously, he's going to be providing those threes, those points. But I think Karis LeVert is probably, particularly in points, is probably the better stream this instance. Isaac Okoro is another good option as well. So he's been starting for Donovan Mitchell, or he started in the last game for Donovan Mitchell. He looks solid as well.
Yeah, for points leagues, the clear cut is obviously LeVert. Obviously, we know about his consistency issues here and there, but when he has that opportunity with Mitchell out, it just makes sense to add him. Yeah, Merrill, Okoro, those are other solid options as well, though.
Yep. I just think with Donovan Mitchell, I think, again, this is not a watch list or a stream by no means, but Evan Mobley should get some more usage. He does like to facilitate from the 4 spot as well. So I think that's a bit of a boost for him. Next one is Taylor Hendricks. So he was a very popular ad overnight. However, he didn't play the second half in the Utah Jazz's game last night, which is disappointing because he's been looking really solid. Larry Markkinen also missed last night. Walker Kessler missed as well. Not sure if Walker Kessler comes back in the next game. He's probably questionable. But I'm thinking Taylor Hendricks down the stretch is a fantastic ad, but probably more a watch list guy at this stage if you are competing for a playoff berth or you're in playoff mode at the moment.
Yeah, you also want to see how that injury goes. I think last I checked, he was considered day to day. So just something to monitor, but it's very promising that he's already been getting starts, more minutes, and he's been giving decent value so far. Yeah, definitely something to monitor down the stretch.
Absolutely. Another one, Portland. We'll go through Portland, but Memphis as well. But these guys, just with the tanking of the team, there's a lot of opportunities for some of these younger, lesser likes. So Chris Murray's putting up some good numbers, putting up some decent minutes as well. Again, I'm not rushing out to go and grab him, but he's worthy of a streaming slot, I guess. Santi Aldama for the Memphis Grizzlies is another guy. With JJJ, I'm not sure if JJJ actually plays the rest of the season. I think he's questionable for the next game, but I would highly doubt that he plays a lot down the stretch. He may play a few games here and there, but Santi Aldama is another guy that could be streamed as well.
Yeah, I think so too. He's one of the better streamers from the Grizzlies too. And we've kind of talked about this strategy in the past where if you're going to stream someone from the Grizzlies, you really have to watch that injury report because it changes literally every game.
Great segue into Jordan Goodwin. So I know that a lot of people picked him up overnight, but I've mentioned this on Twitter as well. He's a two-way player. They're looking at conserving his active games. So you just need to be monitoring the notifications as well to see if Jordan Goodwin's going to firstly start or if there's notification that he'll be inactive as well. He was inactive last night. A lot of people will be disappointed by that because they brought him in. But if he does actually play, if he's slated to be a starter, I think he's a fantastic stream. Really, really good option.
I think so too, even in points leagues. It's just, like you said, it's that case of monitoring, really keeping up with those notifications.
Yeah. If we knew that he was going to be playing every single game, he would be coming off and being put onto the ads list. But for now, because we just don't know day to day what he's going to be doing, I think he is just a streaming guy. But yeah, one to pay close attention to. Next, it's 2 Toronto Raptors. So Grady Dick and Ochai Agbaji. Again, with Scotty Barnes going out, now they're getting the lesser likes stepping up. I think Grady Dick has an opportunity. It looked like Agbaji was being prioritized over Dick for whatever reason in the last game. Put up a lot of shots at Agbaji. Let's see how it plays out tomorrow. But Grady Dick, I think, is one to keep an eye on. And if Agbaji does get those minutes and that usage, maybe he's probably more preferred for a points league, but he probably does need to be rostered.
Yeah, I think so too. I also think both of them have a little bit more value in points leagues, especially Grady, just because he usually just contributes to points, threes, a couple of rebounds here and there. He's not going to get you very many assists. But yeah, definitely two names to monitor, especially with all the injuries that are going on, and even Olenek too, just to see how the minutes shake up.
Absolutely. And I know that even in category leagues, if you do have a, let's say, punt assist build, I think Grady Dick could fit that
Mhm.
quite nicely as well. So, yeah, just be mindful of your construction and putting in and working towards any of your punts as well. So, that's really important to be mindful to. Next one is Kyle Lowry, old man Kyle Lowry, former Raptor superstar. But again, with the Anthony Melton out for the next few games, I think Kyle Lowry is a streaming option.
I think so too, especially when they have a lot of injuries in the backcourt. I think there was one game where Payne was out as well. He posted pretty decent value too. I wouldn't add and hold him, but I would just keep him as a streaming option for now.
Yeah, good point. I wouldn't add and hold him because it's probably highly likely that on any back to backs he probably sits one of those games as well. So yeah, again, one of those streaming options down the track. Simone Fontecchio, he's been solid without being spectacular. So I think again he's just more of a streamer. And the last one there is Miles McBride. Again, we spoke about it earlier, just with Jalen Brunson being questionable for tomorrow. I think he'll probably miss. He's probably doubtful for me.
Yeah.
But I think Miles McBride is the most added player overnight. So I just checked those transactions, and he's the number one player to be added, which is somewhat surprising, seeming that Jalen Brunson is questionable. But I guess in the event that Brunson is out longer term, he's a fantastic filler.
Yeah, I think it's just very likely that Brunson is going to miss that next game, so that's why people just assumed it so fast. And
Mhm.
honestly, I probably would have done the same thing. Yeah, just because, like you said, there's really no reason to really rush him back right now. You want to make sure that he's going to be healthy for the playoffs and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, let's keep an eye on that one. Now, let's look at our drops and droops. So, we've spoken about our droops before, and we'll go through that shortly. But firstly, our drops, Scotty Barnes, I think he's done for
Mhm.
the season. Hasn't been officially announced, but it's looking like it's heading that way. Even if he's not done for the season, I think he's not going to help you in fantasy playoffs. So, I think that's an easy one. Similar one for Russell Westbrook, and we'll get to the injuries in the next segment. But Russell Westbrook, he's out not for the season, but probably for about a month. He was probably a drop anyway, to be honest,
Mhm.
Kayla.
Yeah, I think so too. The last report I read, I think, had him coming back in like early April. And at that point, even if he does, he's going to be significantly limited. So you can drop him.
Yeah. We spoke about it on the last episode that since Ivica Zubac has come back, it has limited Russell Westbrook.
Mhm.
So less playing time, less ability to get those rebounds as well. So yeah, I don't think he was a must roster, but definitively now he is a clear drop. Ben Simmons, again, we just don't know what's happening with this guy. Maybe they're keeping him fresh for the Olympics for Team Australia. But I can't remember the last time he played for the Boomers. But yeah, perhaps he'll be sitting out the rest of the season. I wouldn't be holding him. He's just clogging up your IL slot as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. And even if he does play, I don't see him playing any big minutes, maybe at the most like 20 a night. And he's going to sit out certain games too. It's hard to hold on to him, and I wouldn't.
Yep. Again, another injury one. D'Anthony Milton, we spoke about. He's probably out for 1 or 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Just with the plethora of options now at the 76ers, I don't think he's a must roster guy. Looked great at the start of the season, but now they've got more options, solidified some of the roster as well. Nick Batum, Buddy Hewitt, Kyle Lowry. I think you could do better than hold on to D'Anthony Milton.
Yeah, especially when he re-aggravated an injury that he already had. So it's very concerning, especially when they kept him out for a long period of time.
Agreed there. Now, Mark Williams, you alluded to this. It's probably going to be season done for him. They haven't announced it. This is typical Charlotte buffoonery, but I don't think he needs to be held. Again, he
Mhm.
was, remember that stretch of several games? I don't know how many, maybe 14 games where he was listed doubtful every single game. That's just the
Mhm.
type of buffoonery that we were putting up with. But now he's been listed as injured, but we just don't know a clear timeline of his return.
Yeah, it's definite drop for me, especially because think about it. If he does return, what impact is he going to have? He's going to be very limited. His role is Nick Richards right now. So,
Yep. Yeah. And I think they value Mark Williams as maybe not a cornerstone of the franchise, but someone who's going to help them in the future as well. So
mhm.
working alongside of LaMelo, Brandon Goodwin, Brandon Miller, Brandon Miller in the future as well. So they're not going to be rushing him come end of the season. Tari Eason, we got word that he's out for the rest of the season, which is really disappointing because there was a stretch of games, probably, well, it was definitely before All-Star break, but there was a stretch of games where he was just looking fantastic. It just wasn't to be for him this season.
Yeah, very disappointing news, but at least we know that those minutes for Whitmore and Thompson are going to be a little bit more sustainable down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually funny. I was reviewing our last show as well, and we had on our Droops list Jalen Green, but he's really turned it
Mhm.
around. And it's actually been Amen Thompson that has suffered in terms of playing time. But yeah, Tari Eason's definitely going to solidify in probably in deeper leagues for Cam Whitmore and Amen Thompson. And
Mhm.
Amen's probably a borderline 12 teamer at this stage. Andrew Wiggins, he's out for personal reasons. Hopefully, all is okay because we saw this last season as well, and a lot of those rumors were getting out of control. And I felt for the guy. Hopefully, it's not as bad this time. I haven't really delved deep into what's going on, but we're not really sure of when he'll be returning to the lineup.
Yeah, I think he can safely be dropped right now. We don't really know how long he's going to be out. But yeah, hopefully everything is okay with him.
Yep. This one's unchanged from our last few episodes, but Zach Collins, just Wemby's playing. Wemby is questionable for tomorrow, so just keep an eye out. Maybe Zach Collins is a nice streamer, but in the event that Wemby does continue to play and continue to dominate and be the number one fantasy player and absolute stud, Zach Collins is not deserving of a 12-team roster spot.
Yeah, I would stream him for that one game if Wemby is out, but he's not someone that you should hold on to after that.
Yeah, agreed. Harrison Barnes goes without saying. He's not a very good fantasy player. So we'll move on there. Gigi Jackson, I thought he had a really good opportunity. He had the runway, just a lot of hype around this guy, but he's just not really running with it. He's just been a little bit disappointing.
And he's been getting decent minutes too. It's just he hasn't been able to produce, especially at a consistent level.
Yeah, he's probably more suited to points leagues because he's killing your efficiency in category leagues at the
Mhm.
moment.
Yeah.
Spencer Dinwiddie, he's done nothing since going to the Lakers. So I don't even know how deep it would need to be for me to roster Spencer Dinwiddie, but definitely not in standard league. So drop immediately. Same can be
Mhm.
said for Gordon Hayward since he's shifted across from the Hornets to the OKC Thunder, just not 12-team worthy.
Yeah, exactly. My thoughts with that too. It's just the minutes aren't there, especially when you're in that bench role. It's hard to compete, and it just doesn't make sense to hold on to them.
Yeah. I think he will play a nice role for them come playoff time, but nothing
Mhm.
that's substantial for fantasy purposes.
Yeah.
Tim Hardaway Jr., there was a lot of talk of him being sixth man of the year, but he's been really disappointing in the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's just a trade deadline that really screwed up this Mavs team. I mean, it was good for them in real life. They got good depth, but it really had significant fantasy implications for guys like Hardaway, and we're going to talk about this later, but the whole center issue has been a little bit annoying.
Yeah, good segue. Dan Gafford, Derek Lively, Maxi Kleber is also there as well. He can play some 4, he can play some 5 as well, but I don't think, and they were on our Droops list last time, and they've converted from Droops to Drops. I don't think they have to be held
Mhm.
right now.
I think so too. Gafford for me is a clear cut 100%. Lively though, I would probably drop Lively if I really needed a stream spot, but maybe this is crazy, but I'm just kind of intrigued in holding on to him a little bit, just like a
Right,
little.
right.
Yeah, just
Okay.
because he's a rookie, I could see him getting a little bit more minutes down the stretch, but this is just completely speculative. If you want to drop him, sure, by all means go ahead. Um, but in some cases, if you have that opportunity to hold, I would consider it. But I really want to
Right.
watch those minutes. If it's still drooping downwards, done, gone.
And we've seen him work really well with Luca as well. I think Luca and him have really nice synergy working together. He's a nice rim runner, but so is Dan Gafford. So let's see how that all plays out. There's just so many options there. Both
Mhm.
really good quality centers. So yeah, there's got a lot of front court depth, and you throw in PJ Washington Jr. there as well. They're looking great in real life, but these guys can be dropped for me. But yeah, Lively is could be a hold for you. That's interesting. So let's see how that plays out. Corey Kispert, he was trending up, but he's quickly trending back down. And some of that could be related to our boy Jordan Poole, but it could be just related to Washington having pretty much a full team to pick from. Kyle Kuzma's missed a couple of games, but Kispert's just been a little bit disappointing in the last week.
Yeah, for me, he's more of just a streamer.
Yep. Easy as that. And Bruce Brown, he's injured, but even before that, I think he was a clear drop. Just wasn't getting the minutes, wasn't getting the opportunities. Uh, just wasn't getting the same type of opportunity that he was in Indiana. And again, even in Indiana, he wasn't a must hold, must roster type of guy.
Yeah, 100%.
Next is our droops, and we'll go through these guys, but just to clarify, our droops are guys that are heading towards a drop. In some situations, you may look to preemptively drop, and in other situations, you may want to hold and see where it takes you. But I like to say that sometimes when you're on that borderline and you are in a must-win situation, it's probably better that you stream a slot.
Mhm.
And it does depend on how many transactions you get per week. It differs um, from league to league. Some you get 3 transactions, some you get 7. I've got a league that has 7. And in some crazy leagues, you have unlimited. So it really depends. But these guys, for me, are just drops in I guess, a standard 3 transaction league. But Aaron Neesmith, Andrew Nempard, and Benedict Mathurin. So that's slightly controversial, Mathurin, but I just think that with Aaron Neesmith returning, that does limit Benedict Mathurin's ceiling.
Yeah, those are my thoughts exactly too. The clear-cut drops for me here would be Nemhard and Mathurin. Mathurin is more so someone that you stream when he's hot, but more often than not, he's been cold. Neesmith returned from an injury, so he's still ramping up a little bit. He's definitely a droop, not someone that I would completely drop just yet, though.
Yeah. And same could be said about Nempard. And I guess recently Halliburton's looked really subpar and really disappointing. TJ McConnell's playing really well as a backup, but Andrew Nempard still has a little bit of value, and that's why he's probably closer to a droop than a drop. But we'll see if Halliburton's play gets better, and we hope that it does come playoff time in real life playoffs, but also particularly in fantasy is what we're talking about right now. That should spell the end of Andrew Nempard in a 12-teamer. But let's wait and see, because maybe Halliburton just is not right. Maybe he's still playing injured. But yeah, let's see how that plays out. Andre Drummond is a droop. It's a tough one because sometimes there is some crossover with Vucevic, and they do play alongside of each other. Sometimes Drummond gets a huge amount of minutes at center as well, and you just see some of those rebounding numbers, and it's insane. But there are some teams or some games, just like last night, where he's getting limited minutes and he's just not looking like a guy that you need to roster.
Yeah, exactly. He's more someone that I'll stream if I know he's going to be in the starting lineup or if Vucevic is injured. But I just don't see the sense in holding on to him, waiting for that opportunity to come.
Yep, agreed there. Klay Thompson, he was on our droops list last time. He was looking good. Obviously, the Warriors had an absolute shocker against the Celtics, got cleaned up. I think their stars, or Klay and Steph, sat out. I'm pretty sure that Draymond as well sat out the last half. So you could almost excuse that one, apart from the poor performance in the first half. But you could put that one to one side. But apart from that, he has still been inconsistent this season.
Yeah, that's been the tale of the whole season pretty much. But yeah, his numbers have been a lot lower compared to before. So I think he's definitely heading towards a droop.
Yep. And we've said it before, when you talk about categorical scarcity, threes is one of those categories. We're talking about category leagues here, Kayla, but threes is one of those categories that are very easy to find off the waiver wire. So it does reduce the value of the likes of Klay Thompson, of the likes of Buddy Hield, these guys that, in yesteryear, they were fantastic fantasy options, but they provided fantastic threes. If you can get that off the waiver wire very, very easily, then their value is actually diminished somewhat. So for me, he doesn't have to be rostered, but he could also be held in some situations. Josh Giddey, he's probably more on the drop side, but he did have a really nice game last night.
Yeah, there's something in me just like wanting to hold him for just a little bit longer, especially not necessarily in shallow leagues, but like borderline standard deeper leagues. I would hold on to him just because we haven't seen Hayward steal away that starting spot. Definitely something to watch out for still, but heading towards a drop for me though.
Yeah, and I know it's not always about what other people in your league do, but an indicator of when to drop or when not to drop is if you think that if you were to drop someone, would they be picked up immediately? And in the case of Josh Giddey, I feel like he would be, just for name value as well. And I know name value doesn't get you very far when you're trying to win championships, but I still think there is a little bit of value there. And he does provide some of those categories that are a little bit harder to find off the waiver wire. So high rebounds, high assists, decent from the field. He'll hurt you at the line, but it is low volume as well. So yeah, he's just one of those guys. You're like, I just don't want to get rid of him just yet, but I also understand the other way. If you did want to move off and stream that slot, totally understandable. Ivica Zubac is just, he's been disappointing since coming back from injury. he has ramped up his minutes, but also those minutes have stayed in check, and he's not getting the ultra high minutes that we would like to have seen him get at this stage of the season.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Especially if there's like a hot waiver wire ad or you need a streamer, I would consider dropping Zubac to open up a spot.
Yeah, and then some of those options that we had before that do provide some of those rebounds, Taylor Hendricks, Jabari Walker. There's some other options that if you don't have to hold someone like a Zubac because you think, well, he provides me some really good rebounds, well, you can find that off the waiver wire and just stream that slot. So I think you'd do better just to stream and get better value there. Precious Achiuwa. Now, this is preemptive, and he's still solid. So normally I'd say he's a hold, but we're also looking towards the future. In a couple of weeks' time, Julius Randle, OG Anunoby probably going to return. So that's going to pretty much shoot all value out of Precious Achiuwa and Bojan Bogdanovic. So both those guys listed here.
Yeah, I would continue to hold them just for just a little bit longer. But like you mentioned, if those stars are coming back, then their production, their minutes, their value, everything's going to go down.
Yep. For me, Precious is the preferred option over Bojan. But yeah, I think they are heading towards a drop. I don't know if you want to preemptively do it, particularly if you are in a playoff situation. He's going to provide real nice value right now. Next is our injury updates. Now, this is going across 2 slides. That's how how many injuries we've had so far. And quite a lot of them have been new injuries as well. So we'll slowly go through these. But Jalen Brunson, we've already alluded to. He's questionable, but probably going to miss tomorrow. Let's see how that plays out. But yeah, we spoke about Miles McBride and also some of the other guys that will get a boost in usage. So Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, those types of guys. So just keep an eye out for Jalen Brunson. Lauri Markkanen missed yesterday's game. I think he comes back in the next game, but who knows? I think Utah are going to look to tank come the end of the season. So this could be a thing that we just need to get used to. I think he'll come back in the next, but it wouldn't surprise me if he starts missing a few games here and there just for some niggles.
And it's happened before too. It's happened in the previous seasons, so not exactly a shocker.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock at all. We spoke about this at the top of the episode, but DeAndre Ayton and Jeremy Grant, they're technically day-to-day, probably questionable for the next game. But again, similar to Lauri Markkanen, it wouldn't shock if they started missing games here and there.
Yeah, and that just opens up more minutes in the front court too.
Absolutely. Jaren Jackson Jr., similar situation. Is he going to play the next game? Perhaps. But again, just keep an eye out for those updates because, again, it would not shock us if they decided just to sit him. Maybe it's not going to be a blatant sit him for the rest of the season. But it wouldn't surprise me if they just start finding particular injuries like a quad tendon soreness injury just to sit him down for a game or two.
Yeah.
Walker Kessler, again, we spoke about Utah sort of tanking, but he missed the last game. He's questionable for the next. Foot sprain. Again, more opportunities for the guys like Taylor Hendricks as well. John Collins is putting up insane numbers right now. I know we're not going through our sell highs, but John Collins would be an absolute sell high candidate if trades were still going in your leagues. But yeah, Walker Kessler, day to day, I'm not sure where to go from here.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were dropping him too, especially when he moved to the bench. I kind of just want to monitor, see what happens. But like you said before, the Jazz aren't playing for anything right now.
Yeah, let's monitor the situation. And again, it depends on your personal situation in your league, whether or not you are fighting and scrambling or trying to get into the next round of the playoffs. It will depend. If you're sitting comfortable and you know that you're going to make the playoffs, then you sit on Walker Kessler and just go, all right, he's actually going to provide me some really good value, particularly in those category leagues. Next one is Chris Middleton. I think he's going to miss at least the next game with his ankle sprain. Keep an eye on that. There's still some nice value for the rest of the Bucks, but no one that really stands out at this stage.
Yeah.
Next is Max Strus. So again, similar to Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus is going to miss at least one game. So again, that just solidifies some of the other guys. We spoke about Karis LeVert, Sam Merrill. So I think just look, Okoro as well. So just keep an eye out for that. But Max Strus will miss at least one more game. Tyler Hero we spoke about, so we don't need to harp on that. But I'm hoping that it'll be a short-term injury, so less than a week, so maybe 2 or 3 games. So we'll see how that plays out. Similarly, Jakob Poeltl, about a week with his dislocated finger. I think he could play through it, but there's no reason for him to do so. So hence why we've highly suggested that you pick up Kelly Olynyk. Malcolm Brogdon, again, we spoke about Portland just in tank mode. I don't know. If it says here 1 week. I don't think he's going to play.
You don't
In
think so?
my opinion, I don't think they need to play him. And
Yeah.
why do they need to play this veteran when they can have a look at some of their younger guys? But maybe he plays a game here and there, but there's
Yeah,
no
that's what I
need
was
to
thinking.
actually roster him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think that you need to roster him, to be
Mhm.
honest, because it could be one of those situations like Jordan Goodwin where you don't know until they announce the lineups whether or not he's
Yep.
playing. So, yeah, for me, do not roster him. Bruce Brown, we spoke about him, so he's out, but he's a clear drop. Donovan Mitchell, again, I'm hoping that it'll be maybe 3, maybe 4 games only, and it doesn't continue to bother him come playoff time for most of us as well. Devin Booker, again, we spoke about this, but about a week, maybe 2 weeks,
Mhm.
perhaps, Kayla, that he'll be out.
Yeah, I would say I think 7 to 10 days. That was the minimum. I could see it stretching out to 2 weeks though.
I could do that too. And that's why we spoke about Royce O'Neal being one of those pickups as well.
Mhm.
Onyeka Kongwu. So a lot of guys have missed this guy. He's probably still about a week, maybe 2 weeks away. If you can hold on to him in a category league, I think you try to do so. In a points league, I'm okay to part ways with him.
Yeah, he gives you decent value, but I wouldn't necessarily consider him a must roster just with this situation right now.
Yeah. Anthony Melton, again, we spoke about him with his back spasms, 1 to 2 weeks, so no need to roster him. Ben Simmons, back impingement, no need to roster him. OG Anunoby and Julius Randle, again, these are roster-worthy guys, but they're going to be out. So again, it depends on your situation. If you're fighting for playoff berth, I wouldn't be rushing to drop them. But
Mhm.
again, it really depends on your situation. You just need to read that play yourself. In a category league, Julius Randle's less valuable than he is in a points league. So perhaps you can part ways with him if you are really struggling to get a win and trying to get into the next round of the playoffs. He's one that you could probably part ways with in a category league.
Yeah, I think it's only if you're really desperate that I would consider dropping, but I would definitely hold if possible.
Yeah, it's one of those awkward timelines as
Mhm.
well, 2 to 3 weeks. Next, some longer-term ones. Now, LaMelo Ball, I've got there 2 to 3 weeks, but again, it's one of those situations where we just don't know.
Yeah.
I'm probably thinking that he doesn't play again this season, to be honest, but the
Yeah.
shenanigans that is the Hornets, we just don't know at this stage.
Yeah, wouldn't be
Mitchell
surprised at all.
Robinson. It wouldn't surprise me if they shut him down.
Yeah.
Mitchell Robinson. So he's coming back from surgery, his ankle surgery recovery, 3 to 4 weeks. And I don't think in most leagues that's really going to impact things because even if he does
Mhm.
return, I think he's going to be quite limited. So I still think Hartenstein has that value for at least 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know a lot of people were concerned about Hardenstein's value if Robinson returns, but exactly like you said, he's not going to have a big role at all.
Mm-hmm. Similar timeline, Desmond Bain and Marcus Smart. So both Memphis Grizzlies, 3 to 4 weeks. I think they're going to shut him down.
Yeah,
That's the timeline that we're given. I just don't think they're going to need to bring him back. So why bother?
exactly. Yeah, they're both droppable for me.
Both droppable. Similar timeline again, Trey Young, but I know they're not really battling. They're not going to be contenders, but I have a feeling that he will return before the season is out. But again, that 3 to 4 timeline, 3 to 4 week timeline is very awkward for most fantasy leagues as well. So again, I understand if you need to get off of him just to get that streaming value and getting that value into your team.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid, so
Mhm.
absolute superstar. I'm okay with dropping him. Just
Mhm.
that 4 week timeline, even if he does come back, it's going to be quite limited. He's probably going to miss back to backs. He's going to be limited in his minutes. So he's not going to be putting up top 5 numbers when he does return. So just bear that in mind. Again, it depends on your situation. If you have a free IL slot, you obviously slot him in there and just let's see what happens. But if your playoffs are right now, you drop him. You drop him immediately. But if your playoffs are in 3 or 4 weeks, perhaps you may want to hold on to him and just see what happens there. Because I think two games a week may actually be better than other players 4 games a week. But
Mhm.
again, it does depend on your situation. So I hate to harp on that, but it really does depend on your situation. Russell Westbrook, clear drop, fractured hand. He'll be out a month. So yeah, drop him. Cody Martin, again, he's a clear drop, but he'll be out for 4 weeks. We spoke about Mark Williams, so no need to rehash that. Scotty Barnes is out for the season, and Tari Eason is out for the season. So a bit of duplication with what we spoke about earlier with our drops, but I think it's important that we just wrap up our injuries like that. Now, going into our schedule, Kayla, would you
Yeah.
like to take us through this? Obviously, we've had Monday already, so we're going from Tuesday to Sunday.
Yeah, so sorry, losing my voice already. The main thing here is that the Nets had 5 games this week. They already played one on Monday, so now we're down to 4. But that's still a really good opportunity to stream. We talked about some options. So Schroeder would be number 1. Hold on to Cam Johnson. That's a big thing for now. Dorian Finney-Smith, definitely another player there. Monitor Sharp's injury as well. See what happens with that. I think it was a wrist injury, but they haven't really provided much updates yet. And we also have 16 teams with 4 games and 13 teams with 3 games. So it's a pretty busy week. A good streaming opportunities, as we've mentioned before. So make sure to check that out.
Yep, and back-to-backs as well. I think it's pretty important coming into Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back. So, Kayla, we've got Atlanta Hawks. There's some options there. Orlando Magic, Philadelphia as well. But the big one I wanted to highlight, and I sort of alluded to this earlier, is the Cleveland Cavaliers. So they've got 5 games in 7 days. The 5th game coming on the Monday. But you look at those 2 back-to-backs, Tuesday, Wednesday, then they've got a game on the Friday, but then they've also got a Sunday, Monday back-to-back. So that's real elite options there. So guys like Sam Merrill, guys like Karis LeVert, Isaac Okoro as well. So fantastic options. Donovan Mitchell, I feel like he may come back on that Monday, but perhaps he does come back on the Sunday. I would expect that he probably doesn't play both of those games on the Sunday, Monday. So expect that he does miss one of those on the back-to-back. Perhaps he misses both. But again, just to reiterate, just a lot of options on the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we haven't done this in a while, but now that we've gotten rid of our sell highs and buy lows, extra time for our mailbag segment. So this guy, Bushmush, I should say, but he is an avid follower of ours, but he's got a question. I have drop candidates in Oubre and Reed and Bagley, and on the wire are Portland's Walker, so Jabari Walker, as well as Jordan Goodwin, Charlotte's Grant Williams, Miles McBride, Taylor Hendricks, and TJ McConnell. So see any matches. 9 cat, 12 teams. He's 3rd by a game and a half. Reith is available too. It's a tough one because we don't have the full array of what the rest of your team look like. So in a category league, it would be nice to know what your roster does look like. But there's some real nice options here.
Yeah, I think so too. For me, I would prefer to hold on to Reed for reasons that we mentioned before. Bagley too is someone that I would hold on to, but I've also mentioned he has a little bit more value in points leagues unless you really need the rebounds, a couple of blocks here and there in a cat league. Oubre for me, I don't know if this is controversial, but I could see him as droppable. I would prefer to hold just because we know that obviously Embiid is out. There's a little bit more minutes available in the front court, but he's been very inconsistent over the past couple of weeks. So he's one person that I would consider dropping. And right now, if you want to get some more long-term value, I would actually look at Grant Williams. We've mentioned this before too, where he'll give you the occasional dud here and there, but so far he's looked very promising with the Hornets.
Yep. Reith is available too. That was his follow-up tweet. Reith is looking good, but again, that's real dependent on DeAndre Ayton's availability. Yeah. If Ayton continues to sit, I think Reith is a fantastic option. But yeah, a lot of different options there. McBride, I'm hesitant around just because I think Jalen Brunson probably does return soon. Maybe not tomorrow, but perhaps the next game. So less bullish around McBride. Hendricks, let's monitor his situation there. I think he's got a sprained big toe. So I don't think that'll keep him out for too long. TJ McConnell, just backing up Tyrese Halliburton there. But putting up some good numbers. So again, I hate to harp on it, but it does depend on your team construction, what stats you need, and also look at your opponent. What are they strong in, and where can you get the win against them in a head-to-head situation? But some really nice options. But yeah, I would agree. I think Oubre of the guys that you currently have is probably the most droppable. I would prefer to hold on to Reed and Bagley. And I'm with you. I think Grant Williams is a nice pickup, particularly if Nick Richards does continue to sit.
Mhm.
Goodwin, again, we spoke about him just being hesitant around being able to roster him with confidence. That's more a stream situation just because we don't know on a game-to-game basis what he's going to be doing. So, yeah, probably Grant Williams there. And again, but if you do need the assist, TJ McConnell was a fantastic
Mhm.
option as well. So, yeah, a few options there. Next, drop Reed for Hendricks. I think this is a pretty easy one, but what do you think, Kayla?
I want to keep Reed, especially with Hendricks. He's injured right now. We don't know obviously how long it's going to be. He's day to day, but I just see they both have opportunities for good long-term roles. That's the thing. So it's a little bit tricky. We also don't know if it's points or cat. In points league, I would definitely say Reed.
Yep. I think in category leagues, you definitely see Paul Reed as well. I think that's a clear one right now. Brian Shang, so he's an avid follower of ours. He's got a
Shout out
question.
Brian.
Hey, Brian, big shout out to you, mate. So, yes, so he's followed up a previous tweet, but he's asked essentially there's a trade of him sending Hartenstein, so Isaiah Hartenstein and Ayo Dosunmu for James Harden. Who got the better of whom?
I
So, did
think
he
we
win that
all
deal?
know the answer to this one. If you can get
Absolutely.
Harden for trading those two, good job.
Good
That's
job, Brian.
amazing.
Good
Well
job,
done,
Brian.
Brian.
I'm not sure if he was just looking for a pat on the back, but yeah, that's a clear one. Well
He's
done,
flexing.
Brian.
That's
He
a
is
big
flexing.
flex, though.
Yeah. All right. Kay Boboto is marketing a drop. Playoff starts next week.
No, he's not a drop for me. I was gonna say trade him if you can, but I just realized that most trade deadlines are probably passed.
Yes.
I would still monitor him though. If you know that he's going to be sitting out like every other game or something like that, I would be open to freeing up a roster spot by dropping him, but I wouldn't drop him just yet.
Yeah, I think he's a clear hold right now. He's questionable for the next game. So, yeah, hold him for now. But if it gets worse and he does sit quite a few games, potentially drop it. Right now, he's a clear hold. Jabari Walker or Taylor Hendricks in a 12-team 9-cat league?
Hmm. Right
That's a close
now,
one.
I'm leaning Walker, but
Hmm.
as we've mentioned before, this really depends on those front court injuries. Hendricks too, I think, has a really good opportunity, especially with Laurie out. Walker, we don't really know what's going to happen with him. Yeah, for now, I would say I would go Jabari Walker.
I'm with you. Yep, I'll go with Jabari Walker there. And yeah, like you said, Hendricks being injured with his big toe, we'll see if he actually pulls up for the next game. Mendez 1990. Would you prefer Santi Aldama, Grady Dick, or Moses Moody? 14-team 9-cat. Playoffs start in 2 weeks and already clinched playoffs. So he can tinker here, which is fantastic. So Santi Aldama, Grady Dick, or Moses Moody?
My first pick would be Aldama right now, and second would be Dick.
Yep, I'm with you. I think that's exactly how I responded to him. This was from a couple of days ago, but
Mm.
yeah, Aldama, again, he's not a must roster guy, but I think of this bunch in a 14-teamer, Aldama for
Yeah.
me, followed by Dick, followed by Moody, just because, again, we don't know what's going on with Andrew Wiggins, whether or not he does come back in 2 weeks' time,
Mhm.
where your playoffs do actually start. So Moody may lose a lot of value in a 14-teamer. Now, Phil, he's asked, who would you rather carry into the fantasy playoffs in a 9-cat head-to-head league? DeAndre Hunter or Dante DiVincenzo?
So I think this one kind of depends on when your playoffs start, just because we know that DiVincenzo is going to have increased value while the Knicks are dealing with injuries. So if it's going to be your playoffs are like next week or something, I would say right now DiVincenzo.
Yep, I'm with you there. I think DiVincenzo, and even when a couple of those guys do come back, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, again, it's going to take him some time to ramp up. So even
Mhm.
if your playoffs start in 2-3 weeks' time, I think Dante still has a lot of fantasy value, probably more so than DeAndre Hunter. A
Yeah.
lot of Hunter's value was coming off of, I believe, unsustainable shooting numbers. So his efficiency has been fantastic, really, really good. I can't fault that, but he doesn't really put it on the board across all categories as well. So Dante for me, just because he does provide that all-round value.
Yeah.
So that is it. Kayla, any final words?
Final words. Look at the Nets this week. We still have 4 games from them, so it's a good streaming opportunity there. Yeah, hold on to Cam Johnson, but he could be a drop candidate later on, depending on how everything works out with the injuries, though.
Absolutely. Okay. And obviously, you can find Kayla on Twitter at Kayla_Fonte. You can find me at NBA Fantasy Bible. Keep those questions coming. Look out for our updates as well. Fantasy playoffs, really exciting time for those of you that are still in contention. So continue to follow us, and those that are out of contention, still continue to follow us, because we just love talking about hoops in general, but particularly fantasy hoops. But thank you very much, Kayla, and
Thank you,
until
everyone.
next time, thank you guys. See you next time.